The blare of the emergency alert was like a digital ice pick straight to the forehead, ripping me from the comfortable stupor of my Saturday morning couch nap. My phone, which had been nestled precariously in the cushion beside me, vibrated violently, the screen flashing that aggressive, attention-grabbing red. Emergency alert. Do not look at the sky. Visual anomaly detected across the Midwest. Remain indoors and under cover until further notice. Tune to local broadcast channels for official updates. Do not look at the sky. Visual anomaly across the Midwest. My brain, still fuzzy from sleep and reruns of some ancient sitcom, struggled to process the words. I live in Ohio, smack dab in the middle of the Midwest, so that part was definitely relevant. Uncomfortably so, but visual anomaly and do not look at the sky. It sounded like something out of a bad sci-fi movie, not an actual emergency alert. Maybe it was a meteor shower or some kind of weird weather phenomenon, though usually those alerts were more specific, less ominous. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes, grabbed my perpetually lukewarm coffee from the side table, and squinted at my phone again, just to make sure I hadn't hallucinated the whole thing in my half-asleep state. Nope. Still there, in stark red and white, the same unsettling message. I glanced out the window, half expecting to see, I don't even know what, giant spaceships? Fire raining from the heavens? But the sky outside was normal, blandly, boringly normal. Overcast, gray, the typical Ohio autumn sky that threatened rain, but rarely delivered. The leaves on the trees in my backyard, already turning brown and gold, rustled gently in the light breeze. Birds chirped, squirrels chattered. The usual Saturday morning suburban soundtrack played on, completely oblivious to any visual anomalies or sky-related dangers. It was so utterly ordinary, so stubbornly mundane, that it almost made the emergency alert seem even weirder, even more out of place. Like a glitch in the system, a stray line of code that had somehow slipped into the broadcast. I took a swig of my coffee, the lukewarm liquid doing little to dispel the slight chill that had settled over me despite the cozy temperature of my living room. Probably just a mistake, I told myself. Some kind of technical error at the emergency broadcast station. They'd probably issue a retraction any minute now, laughing it off as a funny little mix-up. Still, that do not look at the sky part. It was oddly specific, wasn't it? And a little bit creepy. Like there was something genuinely bad up there, something you really shouldn't see. I shook my head, trying to dislodge the unsettling thought. No need to get all paranoid over a simple error. I was probably just being overly sensitive, letting my imagination run wild. It's what I did best. After all, overthink, overanalyze, and generally worry about things that were probably never going to happen. It was a talent of sorts, if a thoroughly useless and often anxiety-inducing one. I decided to turn on the TV, see if there were any actual news reports about this visual anomaly, or if it was just my phone acting up. Flipping through the channels, I landed on the local news station, Channel 5, and there it was. The same red and white emergency banner, plastered across the bottom of the screen, interrupting the usual Saturday morning fluff pieces about local festivals and pet adoptions. The anchor, a woman I vaguely recognized but couldn't name, was sitting stiffly behind her desk, her face pale and strained, her usual cheerful demeanor completely absent. "We interrupt this program for an important emergency bulletin," she said, her voice tight, almost trembling slightly. "We are receiving reports of a visual anomaly detected across a wide area of the Midwest. Authorities are advising all residents to remain indoors and under cover until further notice. Repeat, do not look at the sky. Do not attempt to observe the anomaly. Stay indoors and await further instructions. This is not a test." Her eyes flickered nervously toward something off-screen, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw a flash of something fear? Panic? It was gone in an instant, replaced by a strained professional composure, but it was enough to send a fresh wave of unease washing over me. This wasn't just a technical error. This was real. Something was actually happening, and it was serious enough to interrupt regular programming and put that look of genuine fear on a local news anchor's face. "Do not look at the sky," she repeated, the words echoing in the suddenly silent living room. Do not look at the sky. The phrase was starting to burrow into my brain, planting seeds of doubt and apprehension. Why? Why shouldn't we look at the sky? What was up there that was so dangerous, so terrifying, that they had to issue a region-wide warning not to even glance upwards? My gaze drifted involuntarily to the window again, drawn by some morbid curiosity, some irresistible urge to disobey the explicit instruction. But I resisted. I forced myself to look away, to focus on the mundane normalcy of my living room. The worn couch, the cluttered coffee table, the dusty bookshelves. Anything but the sky. I grabbed my phone again, opening Twitter, hoping for some kind of explanation, some context beyond the cryptic warnings. My feed was, predictably, exploding. Hashtag visual anomaly. Hashtag do not look. Hashtag Midwest guy. The hashtags were trending, and the posts were coming in a torrent of speculation, fear, and increasingly outlandish theories. Screenshots of the emergency alert were everywhere, interspersed with frantic questions, terrified pronouncements, and the inevitable jokes, mostly dark humor, gallows humor, the kind of humor that people use to try and cope with situations they can't understand or control. People were reporting all sorts of things. Strange lights in the sky, unusual cloud formations, a general sense of wrongness. But no one seemed to have actually looked directly at the sky. Not yet, at least. The do not look instruction seemed to be working, for now, instilling a sense of collective, almost superstitious, fear. But for how long? Human curiosity is a powerful thing, especially when you're explicitly told not to do something. It's like telling a kid not to touch the hot stove. Sooner or later, they're going to try it, just to see what happens. And I was starting to feel that same childish urge now, that same reckless curiosity. What would happen if I looked? What was so bad about the sky? I shook my head again, tried to clear the unsettling thoughts. No, I wasn't going to look. I was going to be responsible, rational, and obey the official instructions. Stay indoors, stay undercover, and definitely do not look at the sky. That was the plan. For now. My phone buzzed again, another emergency alert. Emergency alert update. Shelter-in-place order issued for all counties within a 200-mile radius of location redacted. All non-essential travel is prohibited. Maintain indoor shelter and do not look at the sky. Law enforcement and emergency services are responding. Further updates to follow. Shelter-in-place order, 200-mile radius, location redacted. That was escalating quickly. And location redacted. That was definitely not reassuring. It smacked of government secrecy, of information control, of something they didn't want us to know, or at least not yet. The law enforcement and emergency services are responding. Part was even more unsettling. Responding to what? A visual anomaly? Or something more tangible? Something more dangerous? I went back to window, peering out cautiously, keeping my gaze fixed on the ground, the trees, the houses across the street. Anything but the sky. The neighborhood was definitely quieter now. The birds had stopped chirping. The squirrels were gone. The usual Saturday morning sounds of lawnmowers and kids playing were absent. An eerie silence had descended, broken only by the distant hum of traffic on a highway a few blocks away. And even that seemed muted, somehow less present. The air felt heavy, still almost expectant, like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. And then I saw it, out of the corner of my eye, a flicker of movement, something in the sky. I didn't look directly. I swear I didn't. But in my peripheral vision, I caught a glimpse of something. High above the trees, in the gray overcast sky, a faint distortion, like a ripple in the air, a shimmering heat haze, but darker and wrong. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but definitely there, and it was moving, slowly, deliberately, drifting across the sky like a dark cloud, but not a cloud. Something else. Something artificial. Something unnatural. My heart started to pound in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. I forced myself to look away, to turn back to the mundane safety of my living room. But the image lingered in my mind, burned into my retina, That faint, dark ripple in the gray sky, moving slowly, inexorably closer. My phone buzzed again. Another alert. Emergency alert. Visual anomaly is approaching populated areas. Remain indoors and undercover. Do not look at the sky. Severe psychological and physiological effects may result from direct observation of the anomaly. Repeat, do not look at the sky. Severe effects are possible. Severe psychological and physiological effects? That was terrifyingly specific. And possible? Possible implied a chance, a risk, but the tone of the alert suggested something far more certain, far more unavoidable. It felt less like a warning and more like a grim prophecy. I went to the TV again, switching channels frantically, hoping for more information, more context, anything to make sense of what was happening. Channel 5 was still stuck on the emergency banner, now with the added warning about severe effects. Channel 4, same. Channel 9, ditto. Even the cable news channels were echoing the same message, the same dire warnings, the same cryptic silence about the nature of the anomaly itself. It was like a coordinated media blackout, a deliberate withholding of information, leaving us all in the dark, terrified and confused. I switched to the radio, hoping for something different, something real, static, just hiss and crackle on every station I tried. Like the airwaves themselves had been jammed, silenced, overtaken by the same unknown force that was now manifesting in the sky. The silence in my living room was deafening now, broken only by the frantic buzzing of my phone and the increasingly erratic pounding of my own heart. I felt utterly isolated, cut off from the outside world, trapped in a bubble of fear and uncertainty. And the urge to look, to just glance upwards, to see for myself what was so terrifying, was becoming almost unbearable. It was like an itch you couldn't scratch, a nagging curiosity that gnawed at the edges of your sanity. What was so bad about the sky? What would happen if I looked? My phone buzzed again, another alert. This time, the message was different, shorter, more urgent, almost desperate. Emergency alert. Maintain complete visual obstruction from the sky. Cover all windows and reflective surfaces. Do not allow any direct or indirect observation of the visual anomaly. Severe and irreversible consequences are imminent. Irreversible consequences? Imminent? That sounded like the end. Like whatever was in the sky wasn't just a visual anomaly, but something that could fundamentally alter us, damage us, destroy us, simply by being seen. I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline surging through my veins, overriding the paralyzing fear. I had to cover the windows, all of them, before it was too late. I ripped down the curtains, the blinds, anything I could find to block out the light, to create a barrier between me and the sky. I grabbed blankets, towels, sheets, anything that would serve as a visual shield. I worked frantically, taping the fabric over the windows, sealing every crack, every gap, until the living room was plunged into near darkness. The only light now came from the faint glow of my phone screen, still buzzing with alerts, still flashing those dire warnings. When I was finished, I stood in the center of the darkened room, breathing heavily, my heart still pounding, my hands shaking. The air felt thick, suffocating, claustrophobic, but it was safe, or safer at least. No windows, no reflections, no way to accidentally glimpse the sky. I was visually obstructed, completely, and then I heard it, a new sound, not from my phone, not from the TV, not from the radio, but from outside, from the sky, a low, resonant hum, deeper than the traffic hum, lower than the radio static, a primal, vibrating hum that seemed to resonate in my bones, in my very soul. It was faint at first, barely audible, but growing steadily louder, closer, more insistent. The humming intensified, filling the darkened room, vibrating through the walls, the floor, the ceiling. It was like the entire building was resonating, tuning itself to some unknown frequency, some alien rhythm. And then the light, despite the covered windows, despite the sealed room, a faint light began to seep in. Not sunlight, not street light, but something else, something internal, a soft, ethereal glow emanating from within the walls, within the fabric coverings, within the very air itself. The light was pale, indistinct, but undeniably present, growing brighter, stronger, more pervasive. And it was wrong, unnatural, like the room itself was becoming bioluminescent, glowing from some unseen source, some internal radiation. The humming intensified further, becoming almost deafening, drowning out all other sounds, all other thoughts. The pale light grew brighter, illuminating the darkened room, casting long, distorted shadows, making the familiar furniture look alien, menacing. And then the voice. Not outside, not on the radio, not on TV, but inside my head. A voice that was not my own, but somehow familiar. A voice that spoke directly to my mind, bypassing my ears, my senses, my conscious will. Do not be afraid. The voice whispered, a chorus of voices, layered, harmonious, unsettlingly calm. We are here. We have come to show you, to reveal the truth, to open your eyes, to let you see. See what? See the sky? See the anomaly? See what? The voice was seductive, alluring, promising knowledge, understanding, enlightenment. But beneath the surface of the soothing words, I sensed something else, something cold, something alien, something hungry. Do not resist, the voice continued, the harmonious tones now laced with subtle undercurrent of command. It is time to see. It is time to look. It is time to understand. Look at the sky. The words were a direct command, an irresistible compulsion, bypassing my rational mind, speaking directly to my primal instincts. Look at the sky. See the truth. Understand everything. The urge was overwhelming, overpowering, stripping away my fear, my caution, my self-preservation. I felt myself rising to my feet, drawn by an unseen force, compelled by an irresistible will. My legs moved of their own accord, carrying me toward the window, towards a covered window, towards the sky beyond. My hand reached out, tearing at the fabric coverings, ripping them away, exposing the window to the outside world. The pale light intensified, flooding the room, blinding me momentarily. And then my eyes adjusted, and I looked at the sky. And what I saw, there are no words, no language, no metaphors, no similes. Nothing can adequately describe what I saw in the sky that day. It was not a cloud, not a light, not a shape, not anything I could recognize or categorize. It was absence, a void, a hole torn in reality itself, a gaping maw of nothingness, surrounded by a shimmering iridescent edge, like oil on water, but darker, deeper, more profound. It was a non-color, a non-shape, a non-thing that somehow occupied space, dominated the sky, consumed everything I looked at, and it was alive, pulsating, throbbing, breathing, with a slow, rhythmic cadence that mirrored the humming that filled my head. It was aware, and it was looking back, not with eyes, not with senses, not with anything I could understand, but with a pure, unadulterated knowing, a knowing that pierced through me, through my mind, through my soul, stripping away all pretense, all illusion, all self-deception. It saw me, it knew me, completely, and in that moment, as I looked at the sky, as I saw the anomaly, as I was seen by whatever it was, I understood everything. The truth, the horror, the inevitability, the severe psychological and physiological effects. They weren't just possible, they were guaranteed. Because the moment you looked at the sky, the moment you saw the anomaly, the moment you were seen by it, you were changed, irreversibly. You were no longer yourself. You were no longer human. You were something else. Something seen. Something known. Something taken. And as the darkness consumed me, as the humming overwhelmed me, as the pale light enveloped me, I knew, with a chilling certainty, that I would never be the same again, and that looking at the sky was the last thing I would ever truly see. If you dare to listen to this tale and felt a tremor of unease, a prickle of fear, then please lend your support by liking and subscribing to the channel. It encourages me to delve deeper into the unsettling corners of the unknown and bring you more stories that will make you question the normalcy of the sky above. Hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss another descent into the abyss. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes it's best not to look up.